There are people I dearly love, of whom I'm convinced that the brainwash has been so absolutely successful that if they saw the burning bush in front of them, the parting of the Red Sea, miraculous victories, if they saw that, those people today would not believe in the relevancy of anything in the Bible to current events and the problems they have. Nor would these same souls in the past, if you believe in that reincarnation aspect, would they have obeyed God right after they experienced these incredible miracles. Now, we know the history. Most of us don't read it and have sporadic understandings of what the history is with narratives and visions and images. But it doesn't change your behavior. None of our behaviors is changing so that we can avert the previous 2,000 years of punishments for not obeying God no matter what. And we've talked about this a lot. My previous lessons give you a good bucket full of reasons for how we've been brainwashed, by whom, why, what's going to happen, Torah trial. You know this already. But today, in this lesson, which I'll call Lesson 16, at YouTube channel Israel Reclaiming the Birthright, I'd like to talk to not just my brothers, because they're my age. I want to talk to my brothers' sons. A lot of you happen to be fighting in Gaza and up north and elsewhere. So I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again about what the Tikkun of Adam is, that is an existential, elemental, absolute requirement if we're going to get ourselves out of this pickle. I want to talk about not the Torah aspect and the history aspect and all of what I've talked about before. I was a psych major. So the short of it is that take a man like Sigmund Freud, or all the others, the father of Gestalt psychology, Piaget. If they had witnessed the behavior of Am Yisrael coming out of Egypt, they probably would have been, wondering about this people, because even though this miraculous God can do anything and has done everything for them, they still won't listen to him. And then they get punished, and then God has to save them, and then they get to do their wicked things again and distance God from them. And anyway, this has been a chronic historical narrative in the soul of the Jew. It's like a broken record, and we can't stop it. So what would someone like Freud say, seeing that thousands of years go by and we get punished during the time of the judges, and the stories there. We do our transgressions and offend God. And then moving right along with King David, he was repentant, but he made a grievous sin. Anyway, same with Solomon. So what we're seeing is that our people are not learning from the excruciating suffering, punishments in the exile, and even within the country prior to the exiles. We will not listen. So what do you think these psychologists would agree amongst themselves if they were going to write a paper about the psychology of the Jewish people, which I happened to teach under a different name at Bar-Ilan University at one point in 1982. There is a Torah psychology, but that's not what we're talking about now. There's a Jewish psychosis unique to whatever you want to say about other peoples on earth. But we will not admit that we're wrong. Not the Chilonim, not the ultra-Orthodox, not the middle of the road. We are all in need of a moment of rest from our Pharaoh-like egos that demand some kind of something from other people that normal people don't need. Anyway, but the point is, we're mentally ill because we can't learn from not the distant past or the middle distant past or the past or yesterday. We didn't learn from the Holocaust, and unfortunately, I've said it before, we didn't learn from October 7th. So you kids, you need to start reading the Tanakhs that we used to get given when we got out of the Army basic training. In that Tanakh is the soul of the Jew. It's the treasure map to our victory from all the problems that we keep gathering up like it's wheat. We're mentally ill, and the cure is in the Tanakh. You have to love God more than anything, including your ego, and you'll see that your ego will stop pursuing you and will drown in the new knowledge that you have, like Pharaoh's men drowned in the Red Sea, Yam Suf. But you have to start doing this, and you have to look at what Hashem says the holidays are, when they are, and how we honor Him and celebrate them and have a good time doing it without making ourselves crazy with such ridiculous laws that how can anyone imagine a God that wants that is really a God? That's why in a previous talk I juxtaposed two passages from the Bible. I think that was number 15. We're breaking the third commandment, the first commandment, putting God's before our God, meaning our ideas. And that's substantiated by the statement in Yehezkel, I think it's the 6th chapter someplace. But anyway, what you want to see is Yehezkel said, Hashem told him about the idols of our hearts and our minds. You don't have to have an actual idol, but the things in our minds that Yehezkel tells us distance ourselves from God. And we know in the last Parsha, Hashem is telling us He's a God nigh unto us, and who will listen when we call. We have to earn all this. So you kids, the ones in the army, about to go to the army, taking a break from the army, forget what we've been taught. You have in your hands a Tanakh. And I'll give you an example. Lo tuvaru esh b'kol moshvotechem. You're not allowed to ignite a fire on Shabbat. But we know that on Shabbat, if we're heating a house with a stone fireplace, logs are bound to burn out by 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and by 5, either the baby's going to be warm again or he's dead. No, I'm carrying it to an extreme to illustrate the point. We're supposed to delight in the Shabbat. Not igniting a fire on Shabbat is not like adding a log to a pre-existing fire that you did light before Shabbat. I've explained this in ad nauseum in a previous talk. Similarly, the law of Taltel is ridiculous. It never had to be. What Hashem told Yirmiyahu in the 17th chapter of the book of Yirmiyahu is that if the people of Israel refrained from carrying our burdens to Yerushalayim on the Shabbat, there would never cease to be someone from the house of David sitting on his throne. Well, we have all kinds of laws of Taltel, and I don't want to get into it all over again. But when you carry your gloves out of your house, or when your wife carries the baby out to the stroller in front of the door, and you're going to shul on Shabbat, you don't need an eruv. That's the bottom line. Now, so you young'uns, you kids out there, because you are kids. Excuse me a second. You know a little psychology, and you know the behavior of Jewish people is not normal. And I'll extend this lecture a little bit, this talk a little bit, by saying that I've lived in the South, I've lived in the Midwest. I got to know normal people. The first time that I realized there was a real problem was I was about 16. St. John's University was going to open up, and there was something called St. John's Pub, and I was wondering, who are these young people coming in our quiet little Hamish neighborhood, and what are they about? So I walked into the pub one evening, and I saw about 10 to 15 stools by a bar, and everyone was sitting and standing around each stool. And on the other side, there were all kinds of little tables, 2 top tables with 4 people hanging around. One person spoke in each little cluster, and everybody else listened. I already knew I was in a unique place. Then I saw someone pause, and another person spoke. Forget about no one even interrupted once. I mean, there was no fire. But everybody waited patiently and relaxedly and enjoyed his buddy's or the girl's speech. Now I walked out thinking to myself, I come from a crazy world. These people are normal. Fast forward a couple of decades later, 3 decades, 4 decades later, one of the chiefs of security at the Knesset invited me, we were friends, to take a look at the Knesset in session. So we were upstairs, and there's these big glass windows, Mishurian, really hard glass. And I was looking down at all these people, and I looked at my friend Ellie. It seems like they're all talking at the same time. Does anyone ever listen at the same time? This is it. So the ego is out of control. Something is driving it that not only isn't holy, but it's not beneficial for any aspect of the quality of life of a Jew. So that's why it's important to take the Tanakh and compare it with what we call halachot from the Torah Sheba'al Peh, that is a mythology. But we need to start doing what Hashem really wants. Because in doing what Hashem wants, we enter a new world. We're pleasing Hashem. And that makes us holy. And that's who we're supposed to be. And when we're holy, that's when He enjoys us. And He blesses us with all the blessings that you can read in the Tanakh, especially Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy 7, Leviticus 26. You got the blessings and curses. Listen, we're going to do this anyway. So you kids may as well start doing it. Open the Tanakh. We're going to return to Hashem either trembling, as it says in Hosea in the sixth chapter, or in the 6th chapter of Isaiah, there's only going to be 10% of us, or in Zechariah 13:8, where 2/3 of us are going to get destroyed. I mean, this has happened before. I take these things seriously because I'm a normal person. I've seen miracles in my life, and it doesn't even matter. You do the smart thing. We have stories of miracles that happened in each war. These are current miracles. Hashem is like, behind the scenes, but hey, these are miraculous events. We need that, but openly, like the prophecies say. There'll be more miracles and salvations than at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of the Exodus. So, let's make the tikkun in whatever way we understand it to be. But the minimum, if there's a code, is you don't do business on Shabbat. You don't have a Shabbos goy. Any fire you make, any heat you set, even the lighting out of courtesy for people who've lived like this, that are your neighbors that might want to come in, because you can invite them now. Little stuff to celebrate Shabbat. Not cut off jeans, but, dress balabatish. And as far as walking, you're not carrying your furniture to market, obviously, so you can carry your baby. Anyway, the previous lessons go into more depth. The reason I gave this more than anything is so that you youngsters, you soldiers now, if you as a group make this tikkun and do it like you accepted the tzitziot, that was a big pleasant surprise to me. I'm sure to Hashem too. Well, of course he saw it coming. But you can see the birth of things at that level, even little things. But you need to do this tikkun so that you can enjoy the blessings that you need, so that we can all live through the big war that's coming, that we refer to as Gog and Magog, Armageddon for some of you. So this is no joke now. We've seen something erupting in the world that we haven't seen in a good 90 years. And guess what? It's our time in history to do the right thing. So let's do it. May Hashem bless us with the right direction. All the best.